with my watch list. Last week, Biden kind of ruined the markets with his blindsiding, ungodly amount of capital gains tax that he's trying to propose here. I'm expecting that he's kind of heightening those proposed capital gains taxes so he can kind of, meet in the middle a little bit in a little negotiation tactic around like that 28% that they've been trying to get for a long time. But basically, I want to dive right into this. The QQQ got sold off pretty heavily last Wednesday when he came out to it. So it kind of just buried the markets a little bit. But the QQQ is staying right in this range. So I want to kick this one off with right here. The QQQ this week, there's humongous earnings happening. We got Amazon, Tesla, Apple, AMD, Microsoft, Google. We got the big dogs this week. So there's going to be a ton of movement, a ton to put on the watch list, but I'll keep it pretty consistent with some of the best movers that I see. So the QQQ is one that I'm going to keep on watch just as like the top dog, because this will move the market no matter what. But below this mark right here, around 335, I would say that it would be a pretty good put entry to hold the 334 flat, and anything below that, we have a lot of gaps to fill. So I would like to stay above 335 in the QQQ and all the tech stocks, especially with the ones that are earning or reporting earnings this week. Below 335, I would hop in some QQQ puts just for a hedge, because it could get ugly under this 334 mark, So, but anything above this 342 all-time high, we could easily see. The market could go either way based off of how these earnings are going to be reported. On top of Biden's tax plan, he's kind of dissecting it this Wednesday to Congress. But anyways, last week I put on the watch list of SI being on the put side. I knew as soon as the Coinbase came to market, there was going to be something pretty ugly going to happen with all the regulation and stuff, because the crypto markets are very unregulated and there's a lot of money laundering that happens, which is exactly what came out. So one thing that I was looking at was the SI put. So if you got into these, you got paid a fat check, no matter what day you entered into them. Like you could have got in here, you could have got in here. Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, it fell crazy. But Bitcoin is actually ripping up right now. So one thing that I want you guys to see real quick is this Snapchat. They reported earnings last week. I had that on the watch list last week as well. There's been something going on where people report earnings and they gap up crazy. So you can see this big fat gap from their earnings report to Friday. So this is Thursday to Friday, opened up around here. Actually opened up pretty high. So a lot of these things have been filling the gap and coming right back down after they report earnings, no matter how good their earnings report was. But there was a ton of movement in these stocks. So if you can day trade these stocks that I'm about to put on a watch list for these earnings, if they gap up, gap down, they always fill the gaps. If they gap down here, there's always like a little bit of like buying pressure and selling pressure, no matter which way the stock price opens up. So just whatever happens during these earnings reports this week, just know that a lot of the times, just at least pay attention. The reverse always happens. So basically, I want to kick it off with the QQQ is one of them that I showed you with those numbers before. I also want to throw in there, keep on watch Square. Square will move with Bitcoin. Actually, Bitcoin is actually rocketing right now. Bitcoin's going crazy. But they hit that 47,000 demand zone, and it's just shot right up to 52,000. I think it's right around 52,000 right now. Yep. So I have Square on watch. It got sold off after the Coinbase market because they're kind of correlated to the crypto market as well. So this is a big watch one for me this week. I got anything below 243. I'd be on the put side to 240, and then anything below that, it could get pretty ugly all the way down to 237. So I got them on the put side right here. 243 is the put entry, but anything above this, I'm actually pretty bullish on Square this week. So 248 could see 250. So I'll hop in some calls around 248 break, ride them to 250, maybe trim some, and then if I see some more momentum, I'll probably hop in some more calls to fill this gap that they got going on here to 255. Anything above this, it's going to start getting really bullish. So I'm going to hop in calls this 248, ride them at 250, and then potentially take some profit off this $2 move, or maybe even buy some more if there's a lot more movement and Bitcoin keeps ripping up. So 248 call side, and then at 243 put side. So Square is big on my watch list this week. Amazon reports this week, so they're huge on my watch list I got going on right now. I got Amazon above 3,375. I'm going to hop in some calls. It's pretty expensive, but they pay very well. And then below that, 3,300 flat is where I'll be hopping in some puts, because there's a big breakdown going to happen here. Below its VWAP right now, but with earnings this week, it could get pretty crazy, because we got all-time highs all the way up to 30, 35, 50. So this has big potential this week. So hopefully these earnings are they can knock earnings out of the water, because look at this one right here. I didn't even notice this, but above 34.30, we could really see a humongous gap fill. So they're expensive, but they could pay very well. A cheaper one that also has a cup and handle forming right now. So it's like, as you can see, this cup, kind of a little decrease here, a little bit of a sell-off. It's kind of forming a little handle, and that's a really bullish indicator. So if they can hold this trend right here above 3,300, we could see this really rip off, especially if earnings are great. We have this one, and we have Apple as well. Apple has the exact same formation. It has the cup and handle right here above 134. And then anything above this 135 price, we could really see Apple take off, especially after they report earnings, maybe even the run up before earnings as well. I have the put side around 131. I would start taking some puts, or maybe even 131.84. I would hop on this side just in case some investors are a little bit wary of earnings, especially with how the market and economy is going right now. So I'm hopping in calls right here above this 135.50 mark, because this could really break out, especially for the earnings. I probably won't swing any calls over earnings, just because the implied volatility percentages are pretty crazy. But anything less than 90% implied volatility, I'll probably swing into earnings. Just in case that they really knock earnings out of the park, and then I'll probably swing next week, not weeklies, just to keep theta away from me, theta decay and IV percentage away from me. So I got Apple, Amazon, Square, and then I want to put puts on here as well. So Peloton has a lot of bad news on it, and actually, if I zoom out on their daily chart, look at this really nice or not even inverse, like just a Head and Shoulders in general. They have really bad news out right now with that kid dying, and they actually had to halt some of their sales and their bike. So I have humongous sell signal right here at the $100 break. I would expect a little bit of a pullback here, maybe bounce off the $100 mark, but I really don't see this. This could pay pretty big time especially if they're recalling their bike. So anything below this 98.78 mark, we could really see 94. So if we get to this 94 mark down here, it's going to get really, really bloody for Peloton. So on my put watch list today to profit on the downside, I'm going to do anything below the $100 mark. We could see a bounce off 100. So be careful when you enter there. And then below this 98.56 mark is a humongous sell signal that could send it down to 94. Probably start taking profit here, but anything below this, it's going to get really, really ugly. 90, we could see 91, or we could see sub 90. They have a lot of bad news, so I'm going to have puts on this one. I'm going to stay away from calls at all costs. But Peloton is huge on my watch list, and then one that I really want to put up here is Melly. I always talk about this as like an honorable mention, but this is a stock that can pay very well. It's pretty expensive right now. They have earnings in May, but if you have I think it's $2,200 to play, you can buy an $1,800 strike for their post earnings, and this stock has been under some heat, and they usually pay very, very well. So if you can buy a next month expiration through earnings, you could catch this right up. $2,000 could turn to $10,000 in just a month if you're patient and they're trending upward. This is just kind of like an honorable mention. This is pretty cheap here. I remember last time that we played the earnings run up, we turned $2,000 into 20 grand per contract. So definitely keep this one on watch. There's above this, what is it, 1630? Above 1630, this could really start running all the way up, especially if you have a month out expiration. It could pay very well. So I want to keep this a little condensed. So the only other thing I'm going to say is that Chewy is very, very oversold. After its earnings report, it did that gap fill, like I said at the beginning of the video, from 92 all the way back down to $80. It's a pretty good steal here. You could do long-term options, you could buy shares, but this is going to return you 75% in share price in the future, above 120. It's already $40 on sale from its all-time highs, and it's leading in its industry. I don't see where you could go wrong having some exposure to Chewy, especially long-term options or shares. I'm in both, so not financial advice, but this is a great price point for Chewy. So now we're looking at QQQ, the breakdown or the breakout this week. Amazon, Apple, cup and handle, the Peloton, Head and Shoulders for puts, and Square. As long as crypto is doing well and the tech is doing well, it could really explode. Market could reverse at any point with Biden's tax plan. So be aware of all those put entries that I was giving. You can go back to the video and see which numbers where to get in puts. But if the market is falling, that Peloton play is definitely one up there that's going to really going to be very profitable this week. So between them and the QQQ, if you get on puts, Um, you're gonna make really good money this week because there's gonna be big movements, especially if you're day trading or scalping. My only honorable mention this week is going to be Facebook because Facebook's a part of the FANG stocks, and if Amazon and Apple are moving, Facebook's going to go with it. And they've been off a little bit of a sell-off streak here lately. So I put these two numbers in here. Anything above 306, I won't get too crazy with Facebook, but anything above 306, I'm going to buy into. So we could gap fill all the way up to 309, 310. Probably won't see all-time highs this week, but we could start making a push back in that direction. But if the market starts selling off again, then I would say start entering some puts around 297, and then anything below 296 break, we could get really ugly again, all the way down to 294 or even 292. So these are my put entries, right at 297, and then my call entry at 306. So that's my honorable mention this week. It's going to be a huge week with all these earnings and big tech players and a lot of Dow stocks as well. But Biden's plan and Federal Reserve is also making a decision on rates. Probably won't raise it, but it's going to be a factor in the market this week. It's going to be a lot of movement and a lot of day trade availabilities. But don't forget about that Melly trade, because that Melly trade could pay very, very well. So pay attention to the QQQ and the market. And these are key price points here, 342 for a very bull run. And then anything below 335, I would start looking at the put side at 334. Below that, it's going to start getting ugly. So wanted to give you both sides because the market's very inconsistent nowadays, but with all these tech earnings, be on the watch out for some pretty big breaks in both Amazon, Apple, Facebook, Melly, and Square. Square is one of my biggest convincers this week, and then I really like that Peloton put play. So keep those on your watch list. Let me know how it goes. Comment anything if you need it. I'll get back to you as soon as I can.